Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the Awakening Potential Show. It's your gateway to the extraordinary. I'm your host, Karen Rudolf, and I'm here to support you in stepping into your sassy confidence, your classy wisdom, and your bold, badassy brilliance. Because awakening your potential isn't just a moment, it's a movement. So here we dive into powerful stories, soul-stirring tools, and game-changing strategies that spark transformation in your life, in your work, and the world around you. So grab a notebook, open your heart, and let's light your that inner spark. I'm so excited today to introduce someone who truly embodies this journey. Our guest, Idongesit Obeya, is a did I get that right? Yay! There's always hope for me, you know?
Love
She's a tech founder. We're going to find out more about all these things. Tech founder, nursing professor, health educator, excuse me, advocate and podcast host of Unshelling Medicine and Obegvex
it.
podcast.
A Big Vex podcast.
There is always hope for expansion. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Doug, it's it. I am so happy to have you here. I know you and I talked the other day, and I'm, a nurse as well. And man, we were just rocking out in our
We
conversations.
were. We were. Thank you for having
Welcome.
me. It's a pleasure being here, Karen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get into like present tense,
Mm.
what is it that what were you doing years ago that perhaps took you into what you're doing today? What led you to now?
What led me to now? That is a loaded question. So, I'm Nigerian by birth, and we have a culture of caring and catering in a sense, especially my tribe, BBBO. We are known for a catering nature. So, I've always been interested in sciences, and I did well in sciences until a certain portion of my life, where in the Nigerian school system, your class is determined by how well or your specialty is determining how well you did in a specific class or specific sets of classes. So I was kind of like shoved into the economics, business aspect of things. I like that too, but science was always my thing. So when I came to the United States and I started out as a nursing assistant, and it always targeted me to go back into the sciences. And my dad, rest his soul, wanted me to go to med school. Um, it wasn't my thing. Um, and in the Nigerian culture, it's a no-no to say no to a parent who's already determined your career future. So it was a little, rough with that. But as a nursing assistant and just basically seeing, the healthcare, the American healthcare system, and the roles that the nurses play, the roles the doctors play, the pharmacist, and everybody. I'm like, you know what? I want to try out nursing, and that's how my journey started. So I started out with an associate's degree and had to stop. I got my LPN. And then went back, for my associates, my bachelor's, my master's. So even with that being in the traditional healthcare system, I saw a lot of things that I would have loved to change. Whether it was, it's just the way we do things, or the disparities that comes with cultural nuances and not really taking time to delve into that. But on the other hand, hemorrhaging money because these things were not really being paid up attention to. So, it sparked an interest in making a difference and making a change. So I started in case management, which gave me a chance to advocate for people. And in my master's degree, I went the nursing informatics route as opposed to, your traditional, healthcare management or, nurse practitioner or PA, all the, other fancy areas of nursing. I really wanted to do something that was technologically involved. And remember that business class, those business classes I took in high school? Yes, they still lingered. So I decided to make a business of my healthcare experience and education. So started my podcast, started my consulting and advocacy business, and that's who I am today, and still growing.
Absolutely. We're always going forward. And this is one of the things that really intrigued me about you. And I was grateful to be on your show. So thank you for that. We're both advocates. And I don't know about you, but stepping into listening to people in that space of fear, number one, was my biggest, watching other people go through fear and looking at doctors like, oh my gosh, this is the end all be all. They're like the gods of the medical field. And realizing like, we need to really be an advocate for ourselves first and foremost. What was that moment for you where you knew that you were going to be an advocate for others?
Similarly to what you stated, people genuinely want to do well, and especially when it comes to their health. However, where we lose people is when we don't understand that the basic privilege of being able to afford your own healthcare, it is a privilege. Not having to worry about being bankrupted or not being understood. It is the reason why we have the term non-compliance, right? Because not everybody has the not everybody has is set out to destroy themselves, but lack of a better word. And we often clump people into just one barrel. So in doing a lot of community-based health, advocating, education, I discovered that, paying for a prescription, okay, whether there's a co-payment to it or somebody is paying outright out of pocket, is a decision that may come down to having food for my children, paying my rent, or my light bill. So, what is more important? Catering for my family or taking this medication right now? Maybe I can do something else that could prolong me a little longer or manage these symptoms so that my children can have something to eat.
Absolutely.
Right? So a lot of the times when treatment is being recommended, there's no that social aspect. We started social determinants of health a few years back. Understanding the social needs that this person had. How much community support do they have? How much is this a financial strain on them, right? And healthcare in America is very, very much a capital driven industry, right? Is very much about the investors and the money that it churns. However, the humans at the end of that, and sometimes the human aspect comes after the return on investment for the investors, right? So healthcare has in recent years, and a lot of us are doing better. A lot of health organization are doing more better in putting the care back into healthcare, right? How do we support this person past the point of the admission, their presentation in the emergency room, their presentation in the clinic, their presentation at that health fair we had in the community last week. How much more can we intervene? Because at the end of the day, whether it's a patient or a member of the community, it is still part of the community, right? They leave the walls of the established systems, hospitals, to go back into the community. And those hospitals are located in the community. How much more care for the community for better return on investment, right? So that was a pivotal point for me to know that, you talk about people looking up to God, to doctors like gods. I come from a community or, culture that has reverence for people in a position of authority, and doctors are no different, right? And this reverence can actually create a barrier to care where people are not given the space, or they don't understand they have the space to be able to advocate for themselves and speak up about, the treatment not working for them or their symptoms worsening, right, over time. So people are scared of being judged, the proverbial wagging of the finger, you're not doing what I told you to do, right? So people are naturally scared about that. And on the home care side of things, I was noticing, I have this example I'm going to give, and Karen, I know this is going to just either you're going to laugh about it or just, send shivers down your spine. But on the community side of things, I was noticing that people were not being honest with their doctors, right? Honest about, whatever else, they were doing in addition to the modern medicine treatment they were receiving, right? So Unshelling Medicine, that's why, we have is a platform where we have a good marriage of, yes, modern medicine has advancement that is mind-blowing and is beneficial. However, there's also the mind-body connection. However, there's also the holistic and integrative aspect of care that can actually help people get better sooner and longer term, right? So I had a home visit in my one of my case management lives, and one of those visits is to do an assessment, a home assessment, and also medication reconciliation. So went into this, older lady's house, and she's already ranting and raving how the previous nurse case manager did not help her align with, the community-based resources that she needed, for ambulation and all this extra stuff. She needed durable medical equipment in the bathroom because her gait was getting weaker. She needed a grab bar. And, I'm taking all of this in, making my notes, asking questions. So at a point where I was providing the resources in real time, she kind of like mellowed out a little bit, which was what I needed to do so that she can open up about her medication. So I asked her for her medication. And it's very common when you do that, people will tell you, oh, these pile as what my doctor ordered or all the doctors ordered, right? So thank you. I appreciate it. However, do you have any other supplements that you take, like everything that you take, the over-the-counter stuff, your herbal remedies? I need to take a look at them, please. And I took inventory of all the medication, finding, some expiration, some double prescription and things of that nature that I was going to address with the provider. So when she brought me the basket of the over-the-counter stuff that she was taking, and I asked her, how often do you take these? Oh, I take those almost every day. Great. So I'm going through the basket and I found a bottle of activated charcoal. So I asked her, how often do you take this? Oh, I take that every morning with my medication. My neighbor down the hall recommended it because it takes out toxins from your body. It keeps you healthy and, it helps you, and, earlier she was ranting and raving how her doctor was just useless. And, no matter what he prescribed, it doesn't work. So I asked her, do you also know what else he takes out? It's like, okay, all your prescriptions. So no wonder nothing is working because this is pulling out toxins in your prescription out of your system.
Absolutely.
Right? So education is a big thing for me.
Absolutely.
Education is a huge thing for me because people really want to do right. It's not like she wasn't taking a medication. She was. However, she was also taking a supplement she thought was harmless, that was really interacting with the medication she was, but not interacting, I said nullifying, the medication she was prescribed. Had it been, she got the right education, somebody to ask her the right question or give her opportunity to express herself, she would have learned that sooner than I arrived, right? And also in doing diabetes education, a patient diagnosed with diabetes have a habit of, I need you to tell me what you ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they're going to tell you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's it. The snacks, the cooking between the soda pop, the, the coffee with 18 million sugar, the hard candy, none of that is going to enter that food chart or, journal. However, if I tell me everything you put in your mouth, everything, right? The apple, the grapes, strawberries, I need to know all of that. Mangoes, tell me everything that you put in your mouth from sunrise to sunset. Then I'll be able to identify the areas that we're having the sneaky sugars that are spiking you, right? So understanding that people genuinely want to do well, however, they lack the information and education is what really started my journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the things I really appreciate about you as well, uh, a dog is that you've taken it. There's so much that needs to be put out there in the community. You're putting that, and it really does get down to educating people to realize that they do have a voice and they do have a say in their well-being moving forward. But I also love the fact that you are a nursing professor, right? So you're not only educating those on the outside, but it takes a community, it takes a team, and it takes us educating and leading those within the system as well. So it becomes more of a symbiotic relationship. What got you into becoming a nursing professor? And is there a segment of professorship that is your niche?
Yes. So thank you for that question. And it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing, but on the other side of the fence. Because I was noticing that um, within my colleagues, there was a sense of if I can't relate, then it doesn't really matter to me, kind of a thing. Right. And that is so detrimental. That is so, 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 so detrimental. Just because English is your first language does not mean that you lack empathy for somebody that English is not. Okay. In America, we have over 25.7 million people of limited English proficiency. And Karen, I think you can also attest to how little time is spent on language translation in a clinical setting because everybody we have to get moving, right? So how do I have time to make sure that patient understands what they need to understand? How do I make sure all the right people to help this person get to a position of wellness are involved in this person's care? If I don't
So
understand and you don't understand to ask a question, how are we supposed to have synergy of sort?
exactly. That's where communication is key. I know when I had
Absolutely.
my accident, I was down in Costa Rica and I don't speak Spanish. I was down there for 3.5 weeks. The only one that communicated English to me was my doctor. And I look forward to his visit every day because, he was the one who was advocating for me in a sense. And I was so
Yeah.
grateful because I didn't know what was happening. I mean, granted, I have a nursing background. I had an idea of what was happening. But when it's happening to you, at such a rapid fire speed. It's and they're speaking Spanish around you. It's very it was eye-opening. It
Yeah.
was really eye-opening for me because it put into a different perspective. And I always think, part of what my platform is all about is shifting perception. And it
Mhm.
really put it in perspective because until we know what we don't know, how do we focus on what needs to be advocated or addressed or communicated and so on and so forth. So I'm
Absolutely.
curious.
And you talked about advocacy, and that's what I impress upon my students, right? They say you can't teach all those new tricks. I don't subscribe to that mindset, but however, I would rather make impact with, granted, I don't, teach in all the nursing schools around, the nation, but my impact and my effort in the schools that I teach in, I take great pride in that because the one thing that I teach my students is advocacy. The person does not have to look like you for you to advocate for them. Your nursing school, yes, it is tough, right? You don't have a life. It's all about your textbook and exams. Got it. And clinical, yes. Please think about that you're doing this for your community. You're not doing this for yourself because somebody out there is depending on you to speak up for them. And we need a lot of that, especially with the maternal fetal mortality rate for Black women being 4 to 1. That is scary, right? That pregnant woman who is not understanding what is going on or who complained of symptoms that are not being taken seriously depends on you to advocate and say, no, 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 let's do something about this. So advocacy is a big part of why I really went into, minus the fact that I absolutely love teaching. I'll always teach all of my life. I think that is for most nurses, not all, most nurses. And I absolutely love the aspect of having people understand that this thing is bigger than them. Nurses don't just pass pills. We're not pill pushers, right? We do a lot more for patients. We're the handy hole as they come into the world and leave the world. Okay, or they're going through a difficult time, or they just received the most difficult news ever, right? So the human in you needs to be present. You have to go into nursing without. It's great that we can have, a good living lifestyle. I would say it's great that it can be a secure career. However, that is not why that career was created, right? That career is there because we are with people at their most vulnerable. The doctor can come, talk about what he needs to talk about, and walk away. That patient stays with you for the 8 hours, 12 hours, 10 hours, however many hours you work per shift, and sometimes days in a row. So it is important to lead with the heart and make sure that you lead with empathy. Don't take it on. Do not take it on, however, but lead with empathy. Lead with empathy. If you were in that position, would you want somebody to lead with empathy? Even if you wouldn't want somebody to lead with empathy, if that person is expecting empathy at that particular point, I think it is our responsibility to make sure that they have it. It doesn't matter what their life was without, before that situation where they, addicted to any substance, whatever their history was. At that particular point, if empathy is what calls, empathy should be what is given, because it can be tough being in an environment where you are your most vulnerable. And yeah.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. I mean, obviously you have many gifts and you're such a beautiful soul, and I so get your heart in it. It's very much appreciated, very much needed in this particular day and time. What is it? We all have stories. What is the something that a patient or something within the hospital that gave you one of your biggest life lessons?
Um, my biggest life lesson, it keeps happening, Karen. Like I feel like, okay, I have one, then something else happens. So, my biggest life lesson, it started, with home care. When that was my focus at the time, I mostly had adults, with ALS, diagnosed with ALS, and the thought of having an itch and not being able to scratch it humbled me. So there's great humility in knowing that the basic function of scratching an itch is such a privilege. And having your brain as active as ever, however, being trapped in a body that can't move and being dependent on machines to keep you alive is something that humbled me and still humbles me to this day. The other part happened actually quite recently. There's been numerous along the way. The other part happened quite recently where I assigned a patient to my students for care. And naturally, when they're administering medication, I'm there with them, hip to hip, making sure that the five rights, the therapeutic communication and doing everything the right way is done while I'm in the room. And also talking to the patient and getting to know them as well. Because reading the chart is one thing, getting to know somebody is another. So, read the chart on this man, knew he was there for alcohol abuse. And he was actively on the SEWA protocol and he was to be transferred. And for anybody not listening, a SEWA protocol is something that is instituted for any drug withdrawal is kind of like a safeguard, to make sure people are, withdrawing safely from any substance, and it can be managed effectively. So got into this room and immediately started talking to this man. And he just sat up and looked at me. He's like, "Are you my psychiatrist?" And I said, "No." It's like, "You're the only person that has spoken with me as a human being." And he was at this hospital for 4 days at this point. So I said, "I'm sorry to hear that. However, I'm not your psychiatrist, but this is my student." I introduced myself. I was like, "Yeah, she was in here, and she's doing a great job." I said, "Thank you." I usually like that, and it boosts the students. And he started on this guilt speech. I know people are tired of me coming back and forth. I need to get this together. And, it's been a lot. And right now I'm calling one of my siblings. They're not even answering the phone. And he kept going. And it was all guilt conversation. So I let him finish. And I just looked him in the eye and I said, "So what was the trigger this time?" And he was close to tears. It's like, "Nobody's asked me that."
Mm.
He told me he's a caregiver for his father, his elderly father. And before now, um, his mother practically died in his hands. And he came home and found his dad on the floor foaming at the mouth. And he rushed in on time and called for help. And they came and resuscitated the father, thankfully, and took him to the hospital. And in that moment, the stress of seeing his father in that state and a flashback of what happened with his mother, he just could not handle it. He needed to get rid of the pain. This is somebody that has a sponsor with AA, who's doing great. He just needed to get rid of that pain. And unfortunately, the bottle was right there. And that's what ended up here. And in talking to this man, I got to find out that he's been in several positions, even those that are newsworthy, that has been like global news, where he rescued people, right? From, a local duck. This was global phenomenon. He's always been a caregiver, always been in a position of rescuing others, but very few people pull up to rescue him.
Isn't it amazing? It's so, I remember I was nursing in New York, and I remember so many people so quickly jumping to judgment.
Yeah.
And I had similar experiences where I'd go in the room and talk, and they'd say the same thing to me, like, "Well, nobody has," because they say the stench is too bad, or because I got into this situation, I'm less than. And it was like, wow, like, where is that humanitarian element? And we've got so far away from it. There's with a nursing shortage as well. I mean, I'm hearing it. My daughter's a nurse as well, and it's like, wow. Like, it's going to take people like yourself to really change, one step at a time, one person at a time,
That's
one
it.
community at a time. But
Yeah.
for those who are listening, I'm really hoping and praying that you will be that advocate for somebody as well, and let empathy lead as well. I think it's amazing what
It
you're
is.
doing.
Oh, thank
What
you.
is yeah. What is the one? I mean, we're at the Awakening Potential show. So, what is that one thing that awakened your potential, would you say? And is there a pearl of wisdom that you would like to impart on our listening audience before we start wrapping up?
Don't be small. Don't sell yourself short. Do not. Don't do it. Um, I don't know what it is. We are healthcare workers. We're talking doctors, physical therapists, nurses, you name it, social workers, case managers. We are one of the most brilliant people, set of people. Okay. However, we are also the most timid when it comes to stepping into our potential.
Isn't that the
I
truth?
don't know what it
Yes.
is. You mentioned nursing shortage, and I had a visceral reaction. Karen, nursing shortage is a self-inflicted injury. And I will say it,
Yes.
I will stand on any mountain top and scream this. Nursing shortage is a self-inflicted injury by nursing, right? We
Yes.
need to learn to treat each other better. Nobody in this day and age will stay in a place that, there's a toxic nurse manager. And I've seen this time and time again, right? And I also
Yes.
say for everybody listening, if you're an administrator in any teaching hospital and you have nursing students coming to your facility to learn, there's no reason for you to have any job posting on Indeed, sorry, on any job board. I don't want to call out anybody, right? On any job board. Your relationship with job board should be situationships. Because if it's the case, you need to look a little deeper. Because I hear this from my student time and time again. I will never work in this hospital. Or I would work in this hospital, but I would avoid this department, that department, and this department based on the experience, right?
Mhm.
So the whole thing about nursing shortage, we need to treat one another better. Let's start there. And maybe, just maybe, we may retain some of our valuable colleagues by our sides. Let's try that first. Something that wakes me
Okay.
up every day to continue to advocate for people or to be a nursing professor is success. When I don't want to use the word help, but when I can guide and assist somebody to their potential, that does it for me. I'm done. The work is done.
Exactly.
When I have those text messages from my students like, Professor, I passed my NCLEX, that is, my work is done. My work is done because I'm not only preparing you to be successful academically, I'm also preparing you to hone into your potential and be a successful person. Every nursing cohort
Absolutely.
I've ever taught, they'll tell you this. Professors always talking about get your experience and start a business. That is my thing. Step into it. You have the potential. And most of my students are either second career students who either were bankers or lawyers or whatever. They have those skill sets in addition to a healthcare skill set. Do you know how marketable you are? And then I have the
Yeah.
LPNs who have been LPNs for 10, 12, 20 years coming back for their RN education. Madam, sir, do you know how marketable you are? Do you know how much you know that we need in the world? So, just the success of people in general, if I play the smallest, tiniest, the most minute role in having you realize your potential, who you are, what you want for yourself, what you want for your life and your health care, your career, my work is done. That is what gets me going every day, making an impact.
I love that. Yeah, and you definitely are. And you're definitely,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I feel your passion all the way over here. I love that. I wish
Thank
my
you.
my educator back in the day was as passionate as
I wish mine was. I
um
think that is what did it for me because not all of them.
right.
I can remember two from Hudson Valley Community College in Albany, New York. Laura Bradley, she was my biology professor. She refused to call me by any nickname. She pronounced my name every class. Van
Love that.
Franhofer, he was my A&P professor. Those two made an impact in my life that I will never forget. So this is a shout out to them. I remember maybe, all these years with all the students that have gone through your classroom, but I will never forget the impact that both of you made in my life.
Love that. Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. Well, for anybody who would like to reach out, um, Edexet is all her information, contact information will be in the summary notes. when you tune into us for sure. And I believe you have a resource you're offering
I
for the
do.
listening.
Yes. So
That
I
will
do have yes. So I have resources, and because I believe that everybody should be in the driver's seat of their own healthcare, I will be offering personal journals, also blood sugar check journals, and blood pressure check journal. So journaling is a way to just, relieve yourself of any heaviness. So I'll make that available to Karen. And if anybody wants to, have a conversation, consultation of any kind, I am on LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn now primarily. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Idongesit Obeya, and reach out, and I'll be more than happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for being with us today.
You.
Idongesit Obeya, for
Yes.
sharing your journey and insights with all of us. Your story is really a beautiful reminder that transformation begins the moment we become aware and continues to be brave and take badassy steps. So
I love that.
we can choose to do that, right? And make an impact on the world and impact on others. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's not an easy journey to make that decision, but it's worth it. It is very worth it.
It's
It is.
Thank you. Thank you. And for our listening audience, remember the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of courage and big leaps of faith. You're all so much more powerful than you know. So keep showing up, keep rising, and keep awakening to your potential. And if today's episode sparks something inside of you, let's explore some more together. So, right below in the comments, the word awaken, or visit us at www.tranquilsolution.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and we will go from there. Until next time, stay sassy, stay classy, and bring your big, bold, assy self to the next show. Bye for now.